Israeli award-winning actor Lior Ashkenazi is portraying the chief of staff in Oscar-winning director Guy Nativ's film Golda that was recently released alongside Dame Helen Mirren, who plays Golda, and he joins us now in studio. Thank you very much for being with us.
Hello.
Hi. Now, Dado, that you're playing, the chief of staff, was quite a controversial figure in the years after the war. He was blamed for not having the information or the intelligence about the attack. How was it to play such a controversial role?
As I see it, Dado is kind of, tragic character, tragic person actually, because he was the only one actually, who's blamed of this war. No one took the blame, and he actually died a few years later, I think 3 years later. Sorrow. I saw his son made a documentary about him years later, and you could see home movies of Dado, like looking very like frustrated man, trying to bring the truth out. It took 50 years just to understand what happened there.
So what did happen? What did you learn in your research for the role about his role in the war?
A day before the war started, there was a definite, they knew that it's going to happen a war, but argue between Dayan and Dado about the reserves, you say? About the, so how much will go? Eventually Golda decided for 120,000
reserve soldiers that would join,
which actually saved the war, because they were there when it happened, especially in the Golan Heights, and it was because Dado insists it should happen. He asked for 200,000, but Dayan didn't want to do it. So, and there are many. I read the protocols. It looks like a chaos. It's a mess. It's a hurly-burly kind of. Everybody's talking. Nobody knows what's happening. It's like, and you can actually you read it and you said, oh my God, how did they run the country, these guys? I mean,
and much of this mess is portrayed in the film that you're playing in. There's a figure, a lady figure, the only female prime minister who led Israel for a few years, Golda Meir.
In the world, actually, not just
at
Israel.
At the time, yeah. Now there's so many, but here the situation is very different. And then there's all these men. They all think they know better. How was it to be in that sort of environment 50 years later? We hope that perhaps the world has changed a bit in Israeli politics, maybe a little bit.
I don't see women in the government now, in the,
not in the current government.
Not enough.
The previous one had quite a few.
Well, Golda said, after the war, she said, what can I do? They're all generals. How can I resist the generals? Kind of saying that I'm innocent. They know better than me. But when you read the protocols, you can see that she took charge there. We know today that Dayan had a nerve break during the first 2 days of the war. He couldn't manage, he couldn't do nothing, and she asked Dado to take charge. She knew how to deal with, and you can see in the movie how she dealt with Kissinger and with the other generals. I mean, she knew how to manipulate them.
She was a tough cookie. Now, let's talk about Helen Mirren, who played Golda. I mean, not every day one gets to play with Dame Helen Mirren. I guess, what was the experience like? You had a wonderful cast. Her, of course, as Golda, but you had other wonderful actors.
But it's mostly about Golda. It's a Golda movie. We felt very lucky to be there. And it was amazing to look at her working. It was like a studio acting, back to studio acting, to work with her. She was there 3 hours before us in the morning, and she went home 2 hours after us, just because of the makeup and the stuff. And we actually didn't see her as Helen Mirren.
Part of the criticism on the film, by the way, was that the makeup is so heavy that you can hardly recognize Helen Mirren's expressions through the makeup.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like a satire kind of. I mean, it's not a caricature. It's actually, you can see we felt like we're in the same room with Golda as actors. and it was pretty amazing. I mean, it's not like you have all the Saturday Night Live and all the shows that you put, extensions and stuff, and it looks, funny. I don't think it's funny here, and I think she's portraying her very, very detailed and very, everything, the accent, the movement, everything.
Quite an amazing job.
It was amazing. It was amazing watching her, really.
Yeah. And Guy Nativ, an Israeli Oscar-winning director, he won an Oscar for his short film just a few years ago for Skin. Yeah. And then a cast that includes Liv Schreiber and the wonderful actress from
Camille,
right? Yeah, from 10%. What was that like working with all of them? And I understand that you were shooting mostly in the UK, but some of it was shot here.
In the UK. It was a studio. We were shooting in a studio. It was during the COVID days, so we were like in a kind of capsule. We couldn't go out. We were like just doing that. Yeah, it was pretty. Wearing 70s, clothes, and it was fun.
Lior Ashkenazi, thank you very much for coming into our studio.